dreaming of being a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming of being a man? Hey, look, we're now streaming live on Facebook. It says so. Hey, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well this fine wintry day in the middle of Texas, 46 degrees lower than it should be. I'm John Leahy, the winemaker here at Becker Vineyards, and I want to welcome everybody for another virtual tasting. Today's tasting, we're going to be reviewing the 17 Jolie Rosé, which I have in my glass now. And if you're joining us, I would encourage you to pour that in your glass. We also have the 17 Reserve Canada Cab and the 18 Reserve Merlot. So Doc, would you like to kick it off for us, sir?
Well, you know, every night at this time of this broadcast for the last 45 weeks, I've had a moment to think about the pandemic that we're battling. Joe and I as physicians, our friends, our patients, all the people who work in medicine at every level. It's at last there's some light, and we're very pleased about that. But it's not a moment to reduce our vigilance, our guard, protect ourselves, our friends, our patients. So it's 6 o'clock on a balcony in New York, we hope, and somebody's leaning out the window saying, "You've got to taste this wine." I mean, that must be what they're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Joe, add something to that. That was kind of.
No, I was thinking merrily about the weather when I was about 6 years old in 1985, and Dad said it's going to snow, and he said I said, "You have your hopes up?" And he said, "I've got my hopes up." And I really wanted some snow, and I said, "Well, I'm going to get my hopes up." And Mom said, "I don't know. I don't think it's going to snow." And I said, "I've got my hopes up. It's going to snow." And sure enough, we got 13 inches of snow in 1985. So that's the last time I really remember anything like this in this part of the world. And particularly remembering going to the big hill in our old neighborhood where some of the neighborhood kids had built a ramp. And my poor brother, who was stuck inside having to write an English paper, only to find out that the next day that it was not due because of the snow day. So, but anyways, I had a delightful couple days, actually sneaking down to Dad's house with my three boys for some wine and some sledding. So it's been entertaining.
Okay, so what does Nathan like to drink after sledding?
Hot chocolate.
Hot
Well,
chocolate.
actually, I say he likes a cup of marshmallows with some chocolate on the side.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to drink hot chocolate. That's awesome. So does everybody have the wine?
We got it.
Absolutely. Kaylyn, are you joining us or are you just monitoring us?
Well, I'm supervising.
You're supervising.
But I actually, because I haven't gone back to the winery since last week, I don't have all of the wine. So I'm without the Jolie, and I have different vintages of the Reserve Merlot and the Canada Cab. So I'm just here to offer some other insight.
Perfect. Well, Joe, since you went sledding, why don't you lead us off with the rosé?
Absolutely. So I know we've talked about many times before. This is one of the three rosés of our rosé program, our Jolie. It's the French word for young, for pretty. Not an homage to the actress Angelina, but we look at this wine. It's a very rich, very delicious, very creamy wine. I know, John, you're going to talk a little bit about how you made it and so forth, but this is always a wine I think you can certainly drink on its own, like right now, like right after sledding. It'd be perfect.
I'm putting that on the back of the next label.
That's right.
Instead of dancing in a fountain, it's going to be sledding down a hill.
Yeah, I was just checking that.
So Doc, what do you have? What's your impressions of the Jolie, sir?
I love the fruit capture. I love the acidity, the minerality. It's dry, of course, no sugar. It's just a very, very nice expression of the fruit of which grapes, John?
Yes, all of them.
That's what I thought.
Actually, the 17 Jolie has a fair amount of Tempranillo in there. and we also have the Rhone varietals in addition. And if I'm not mistaken correctly, and I'm trying not to bend down and look at my phone so my eyes are off the screen, but I do believe there's a bit of Merlot and Cabernet in there. As a matter of fact, there's a little bit of the 17 Canada Cab in the Jolie, in addition to the fact that we're tasting the 17 Cab later. We took some of the Saignée from that particular lot and put it in the Jolie. So it's kind of fun. We have 2 wines that might be related. Yeah, I'm absolutely enamored with the nose and how well this has lasted as a 2017 rosé. So this is the second week that we've done a vintage rosé. That is just really kind of surprising to go back to it after a couple of years in the bottle.
Yeah.
It's still very, as I said, it's very creamy. It's almost a little bit of the just a smidge of the strawberry note. Sometimes I feel like we taste in these when they're younger.
Right.
But as Dad said, the fruit has kind of melded in or meshed in very nicely over time.
Mm-hmm. It has. It really has. This particular wine, the Jolie, and the preceding, the following vintages of the Jolie have always been very, very nice with a heavier food. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to maintain this fruit here, but there's a lot of body in this wine, and it really has come out. There's a fair amount of body for a rosé. It's a long way since the 1970s and a bottle of Lancers. I'm just saying.
So John, does that come from a lot of the cold soaking that you do early on?
Yeah, there's a fair amount of tannin structure in there, Joe. Because I know I can speak intelligently to the Cabernet portion of this particular blend without going back on the notes, which was we Saugné'd that Cab at 12, 24, and 36 hours. And to make room for the concentration. And 2017 was a great year. We had no worries about fruit ripeness. We didn't have the same environmental pressures late in the harvest season that we normally do. We were without rain and cooler temperatures. So we had a long maturation period for those grapes. And with the Cabernet, taking off that Saugné did a couple of things. It added a couple of layers of depth to the Jolie when we went back and blended it. Now the Cabernet and the Merlot, all of these Saugnés we ferment and age separately, and then I'll go back and blend for the wine. I'm not making the blend in the tank as is. We still blend the same way that we do with the Cabernets, Merlots, and the other wines too. And unless I'm going to get these comments now about blending doesn't necessarily mean blending different varietals together. We do blend the same varietal from the same vineyard together. I'll explain that again for people who get a little confused by that terminology. I can blend separate varietals, but for like the Cabernet, when we come up to it, I'll explain the fact that we've fermented the same fruit, but in separate containers and with separate yeasts. So with the Rosé though, I mean, we're looking at 8, 9 different varietals in this bottle.
Yeah.
So.
And most, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know you've had this wine, Kaylyn. So.
Well, I always really enjoy the Jolie, and luckily I've tasted it, a number of times pretty recently with the private virtual tastings that I've done. And what stood out to me lately has been the maybe floral or herbal tea components that I catch on the nose and on the palate. And I think overall it's just a lovely wine. I know it's been said before, the wine of compromise, but in the best of ways. It's something that I like to bring, to family dinners and things like that, just so I don't have to select white or red, or, make sure that we have a wine that is specific for a specific person. It's going to work with almost any dish and any palate. And I think it's a winner all the way around. I'm sad I don't have any. And I will say it's because every time I have a bottle of it here, I do drink it.
Hey, so we got to get our general manager involved in this. He just snuck in. Bret, do you have a glass?
I had a great trek through the hill country in the snowy roads to check on the winery, and and then ended up in Fredericksburg and checked on the Main Street tasting room and had a phone call from one of our employees that their heater wasn't on. So I helped Rebecca get her heat on, and it worked out. So sorry that I'm late, but we are like, I mean, it's, and Kaylyn texted me or called me and said, what do you think for the virtual? I'm like, if there's any day to have a virtual tasting, today should be the day.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Oh, so do you have your rosé?
Yes, and I actually ended up, for some reason, I grabbed a bottle out of the tasting room when I was there, and I was like, what year is it? And Kaylyn had texted me that it was a 2017. I'm like, why is there an 18 and a 19 sitting here? So we do have the 18 and the 19 already bottled of this, and that's kind of unique. But the story behind that is that the 18, when we were working on it, that bottle is so hard to get done, we decided to do both of them at the same time.
Mhm.
And the 17 vintage, which we're trying tonight, I think we made maybe 2,000 cases of. I don't remember.
Yeah, really close to it. Yeah.
And each of the next vintages, we only made about 700 cases of each one of them. So we bottled them both at the same time. So I have all three, but I have the right one with me. So
Well, they're all good.
but this is the one that I think too, that if you look at the rosés in our program, I really love the 17s. I think all three of them, with the Jolie, the Sauvignon, and the Provençal. I think from that vintage, we always talk about it being as good as what it was, or what it, what the wines produced. And to me, that, I mean, this wine's going to be good for a long time. And I think that we have the, don't we have the 17 Provençal and keg too, that we keep liking?
That's the 16 actually. But yeah, which is really amazing. That's a whole nother ball game there. It's been a fun experiment with that 16
to see how long those will actually age, even being
yeah, because there's always been this misnomer that rosé fades after a year, and I don't know where that got started. You generally don't see rosés of the vintage until the following year, and that at minimum 9 months after the vintage declaration. So the spring of the following year. But these rosés have been lasting quite some time. It's funny. I got a call today from ex-grower of ours, Cap Hopland.
Oh,
yeah, Holland.
Oh.
Holland, Cap
Yeah.
Holland.
Cap Holland, and he had just opened a 2015 Chardonnay and called me up and said, "I got to tell you, this is really good." I was like, "Oh, thank God you didn't say this is. What did you do?" But he wanted to say hello to everybody. So, yeah, this is a fantastic wine. Any further thoughts on it, guys, before we move on? Okay.
Drink it. Yeah.
Yeah, drink it. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not seeing any questions come across the Facebook. Everybody's joining us. And Bret, just so you know, Rebecca thanked you on Facebook for repairing her heat.
Well, and what was so weird on that deal is that I think if she would have called somebody, they would have been there in like 3 days, and I was in the tasting room. She says there's power to everything. It's just not turned on. I'm like, did you check the batteries? And she's like, yes, everybody says check the batteries. And I'm like, it's got to be something so stupid. And it literally was the emergency float switch in the heater that keeps it from freezing up as an air conditioner. And I wiggled it, and the whole thing kicked on. And she's like, this is amazing. I'm like, you owe me $300.
Yeah, right. I'll wait till she gets your bill.
Because that's what they would have charged to, wiggle the little adapter thing.
So, Doc, talk to us a little bit about the Reserve Merlot.
Well, I think it's quite beautiful. This won a gold medal in the San Francisco Wine Competition this year, and I'm really proud of it. Its predecessor won double gold, so we're having a nice run with Merlot. As someone who likes words, I love to remember that Merlot is derived from the French word for blackbird, merle. And blackbirds and ravens have been a big part of some of the nomenclature in our winery, especially 13 ways of looking at a blackbird. And so for the last day, I'm thinking about the first haiku from 13 Ways of Looking at Blackbird, which is 13 haikus. It's among 20 snowy mountains, the only moving thing was the eye of the blackbird. And that's been not much moving in our part of the world, except for Joe's 3 children.
And they don't stop.
They don't stop. They don't know about the eye of the blackbird yet. They will. But I love the depth of this, John. I mean, this Merlot is like a right bank, Merlot from Bordeaux. I'm proud of it. How 2 years in oak, John? How long was this?
Yeah, it was just about 2 years. Yeah.
And blended with a little bit of Cab Franc, a little bit of Pete Bordeaux.
Yeah, there's just a touch of each. Yes.
In
Yeah.
And I think
yeah, so
this is a
and-
star.
and I'm going to get I'm going to get Bret to wax eloquent about the packaging on this one too. But the this is our distribution Merlot, so this goes out across the state. So your favorite bottle shop, if they don't have it, ask them for it, but chances are they may. And
and it's in every retail outlet. It's the one that's decorated. You can't see it very well in this, but I don't remember what year we changed the packaging on this to get that decorated bottle, but as soon as we changed to that package, the sales went through the roof, and a lot of the reports were that Merlot was on the decrease. But the bottom line is that wine is at $15 in your local grocery store, whether you're live in Houston or Dallas or Austin, and that wine is. I mean, I dare somebody to go buy one at the same price point and taste it blind next to it, because that's a $25 or $30 or $50 bottle of Merlot, in my opinion. But when we talk about the blend on this, John, I don't know. I don't have the blend sheet next to me. Do you have it?
I was trying to pull it up earlier, but I keep doing this, so I keep looking down.
But I'm pretty sure that isn't it Steve Newsom and Jet and
Yeah,
so-
actually, the 18 is a lot of it's almost equal portions, but I think the majority is Steve and then Jet. So
Yeah.
The spice on the nose and the front palate is just delightful. It's impressive. It's it's kind of, for me, it fits with being inside on a cold snowy day. It's just beautiful, and I feel like we get that in these. We really accentuate that from our Texas Merlot grapes.
Oh, we used to talk about spice, Joe. There's a really nice white pepper edge that I'm getting on this.
Agree. Yeah.
Texas Merlot's got such a great spice component to it. It's got the brown spice, but it's also got this nice pepper edge.
Yeah.
Of course, that touch of Cab Franc in there for that Pyrazine bolster there, that almost bell pepper edge.
Yeah, but it's exactly. You read my mind. It's there, but it's I mean, it's sort of perfectly blended in. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's that's really doing well. This wine is going to do very well in the next 5 to 10 years if it lasts that long. I mean, which makes it an extraordinary value, considering that we sell it for $1.99 a bottle. Yeah.
it's supposed to be retail $14.99.
Oh, $14.99. Yeah.
You
But
could go
So
to
here's
the-
you mentioned my 3 little boys. Here's the amazing thing, and I've selfishly have all the wine upstairs. I asked Emily if she wanted to do the virtual tasting with me tonight, but she's, I think, downstairs getting dinner ready with the boys. But one of the tasks of Hercules, or a Herculean task, was for the past 2 days, spending about a whole hour getting all 3 of our boys bundled up to go outside. Because I have some ski clothes and she does, but they don't, and so several layers of socks, including plastic bags so their feet don't get soaked, and but still somehow the boys find ways to get snow down into shirts, and but it was an impressive effort, I have to say.
Now,
Thinking about
I have to ask, was Nolan out there like his arms stretched out like in A Christmas Story? Where he
oh God, yes. No, Nicholas was walking around like that little character.
Nicholas was?
Yeah, my 3-year-old. Yeah. Nolan was pelting me with snowballs every chance he could get, and we found some boogie boards, and he was diving down a big hill near Dad's house with them.
Nice. I love it. Inevitably, after you spend that hour getting everybody bundled up, somebody's got to then go use the restroom,
Yeah. And it's tough when you don't have water.
right?
And what's so
Right.
crazy is every time we took our kids to like the steamboat or whatever we go skiing, you spend all this time getting them ready to go outside, and then you realize that, oh crap, they didn't have the right clothes on, and now
Right.
they're wet. And so they come back in and you start back over and you dry everything off, and it takes like 2 days to understand how to dress in those conditions. You don't wear
Boy.
jeans, and what was funny, after this whole snow event, we were out taking care of all our animals and all this stuff, and I wore jeans outside and like leather shoes, and I'm like, I had to relearn how to dress.
Yeah.
Like when we go to the ski resorts, that and after day 2, you figure out you wear your ski pants, your rubber boots. You come back in, you don't walk 5 steps into the house and put like cold snow droplets on the floor so that everybody steps them in their socks. It's like this learning process. But Joe, I can totally like sympathize with you that the first 3 times we took our kids to the snow, it was like 45 loads of laundry just to get the clothes dry so that they could go back out again because they just wanted to play in the snow.
Hey, I do have a question. In all honesty, Joe, did anybody do any snow angels?
Yes. Nolan did. Many. Nolan and Nicholas did. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
they both did. Yeah.
You guys have any glow sticks, like the snap open glow sticks at home?
We do.
What you do is go out in your yard, put a mound of snow about 2 feet high, dig eye holes in them, and put glow sticks in each eye at night and face it towards the neighbor's house. Well, I guess we should get back to the serious subject of wine.
Right.
So, Bret, any comments on the Merlot?
It's awful good. That's my comment. It's really good.
I have not had this in a while, and this 18, and I'm kind of enjoying it. Now I'm really honestly thinking about what I want to eat for dinner.
Well, and we talk about this a lot, that like Cabernet is the king, but like I love to go to places and find these Merlots that are like really chewy, and like to me this wine just fits that bill. And like when we travel, like I think Merlot is kind of the unsung hero of the Bordeaux varieties a lot. And I love Merlot, and we actually purposely go try to find good ones that aren't crazy expensive when we're out and about. And to me, this just hangs in there with them right now. So
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So, Kaylyn,
Yes.
there's a little birdie that whispered in my ear.
Yes. So I think that well, for starters, I'm on a different vintage of the Reserve Merlot than what y'all have got. I've got the 16 at the house because
Oh.
I'm dealing with what I've got, and I decided it was worth opening and checking it out. And it is beautiful and fantastic. And I think, like Bret had touched on, Merlot is kind of an unsung hero. A lot of people watched that movie and decided that they don't like Merlot, or that it's going to be too soft or what have you. And I think this structurally stands up very well. It is very pleasant, and I think it would be a fun time to get a room full of people and say, that hate Merlot, give them a taste of this and let them actually experience it and pretend it's not, see what their true honest reactions are, because I think it's a beautiful wine and there are people missing out if they do not take the chance.
Absolutely. And I have to agree with you. It would be fun to get to a room full of people who hate Merlot and shut the door and leave.
Also that, but if we could convert them.
So, Bret, was that the 16? Was that the one that got
Yeah,
2 double golds 2 years in a row?
Twice.
Yeah. That was really
From
fun.
San Francisco, like
Mhm.
this one little show on the West Coast.
Right?
Just a little one.
Just a little one. Yeah. I thought it was funny. It's the first year we were very excited, got double gold. And then it accidentally, the same vintage got sent the next year instead of 17, and it got double gold again.
It was
So
we call
And
it
there's a reason we talk about this, and I think it's because the way there are people that just flitted through here about awards, but so the way a double gold in any of these awards, like the San Francisco Chronicle or the San Francisco International, they have a panel of judges, between 50 and 60 judges, and over a several day period, these judges will taste all the wines several times, 2 to 3 times. Each time they have to give a gold to, every judge has to give a wine a gold If all 50 or 60 judges give a gold, then you get a double gold. If even one holds back a gold, then you get just a regular gold or a silver, depending on how many people give you silvers instead of golds. But so it was pretty amazing that 2 different years, 2 different panels, and they all voted the same. So that 16 is a pretty nice bottle. And don't worry, Kaylyn, it's only $188 with your inflation.
Well, I was looking through my cabinets, and I have been for several days now, and taking stock and inventory. And I thought, oh, well, I guess I'll just twist my arm. I'll open up this bottle, have a really good excuse to get into it tonight, because we're anticipating more snow. And what better way to stay cozy?
Absolutely, a bottle of Merlot and a nice snowstorm. See, I'm thinking there's a whole winter motif that Texas has not been able to use on the back labels.
Right.
Tony Bell never painted a snow scene that I know about, so there weren't many.
That's good. This shouldn't happen. If I look outside,
Exactly, it should not happen. Absolutely.
I mean, we're having to haul water out of the house to feed the animals, you know, and it's just like, it's crazy. You know, 1 degree here at our house is not normal, you know.
Now, Bret, are you taking care of your cat?
Yeah, the cat is that John graciously gave my wife against my better judgment. He's in the garage.
I just want everybody to know that it's amazing. I haven't been fired by Bret for giving him the cat.
I was like, and this thing, he has a personality, John. Like, seriously,
Yes.
you know, yeah, he has a very.
Uh-oh.
Looks like the temperature for no, he's back. There you are, Bret. You froze there for a second. Oh. So any other comments that we can add to the Merlot? Because I really don't want to leave this glass of wine. This is something else. So Doc, what was before we do actually leave, because I do want to get back into the kind of the vineyard and the decision making and buy Merlot. What was the impetus to release a reserve Merlot for your very first vintage?
You mean before you were there? I mean,
Yes.
way back when?
Yeah.
It was very good. I mean, the Merlot tasted great. It was in barrel and for about 2 years, and we just bottled it. And I don't know if I've not seen a bottle of that in a long time. I think it was like 96. Is that right? That we made it, and I think
Maybe so.
I think Bill Blackman and I made it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that then, and Bret was mentioning the label change, and that happened shortly before I came on. I think, was that 09 or 10 that you guys changed to the etched glass? Oh, good. For a second there, Bret, I thought the cat had grown. Yeah. So that's your Bret. Your microphone's off. Oh, yeah, he knows. Yeah. Whatever.
I was yelling at this dog for licking my feet.
Well, what year was the first Reserve Merlot bottle etched?
I think 2007.
7? Okay.
Maybe 8.
Well, we've had a very long history. I mean, of good Merlots. So.
Yeah, but I think that one of the things about this particular one, I think that like my message on this is ultimately there's so many great Merlots across the state of Texas, and you know we actually, the Quattro Stagioni came back because in 2012 we had so many good Merlots, we didn't want to just take them and put them in this bottle and lose lose what was going on in the Merlot world in Texas. And that's why we brought the Quattro Stagioni labels back, because originally they were Merlot based with Italian varieties. But I'm just telling you that I think that Merlot is like the most understated, one of the most understated wines in the state, because we have 12 growers and almost all of them grow Cabernet and Merlot, and they're just so good. I mean, and this one that we keep talking about is in distribution, but it's a conglomeration of maybe 5 different vineyards, where when we took the Quattro Stagioni labels, we just didn't want to lose the Merlot that we had from different vineyards across the state. So I can't sing the praises enough about the Merlot in Texas. And again, I would this against any Merlot that's in that category, below probably $40,
Mhm. Yeah, so while you're talking, we just got a question. How likely is this freezing weather going to affect the hill country versus the high plains, this last weather event?
Well, the answer is we don't know, obviously, yet. In a week we might know, but
Mhm.
when I can't show this picture, but when I went to the vineyard 2 days ago and checked on everything. Everything was encapsulated in like an inch of ice. So I have this really cool picture of the back vineyard that's just it's like ice everywhere, and that ice is a good thing because it insulates those buds from the cold. If it was a dry cold and they're out there and they cook,
Mhm.
that ice is a definite, like, I mean, when you do frost protection, the ice is actually what you want to build at times to insulate those green buds even. So I think the fact that we got so much wet moisture on those vines is going to be a good thing.
Mhm.
But ultimately we don't know.
Yeah, I think getting them I know that it's good for a lot of other fruit industries to encapsulate with ice before it gets too cold. That does protect. But yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that the technology they're using to measure the temperature at which the buds die,
Yeah.
the sensors. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, so Texas A&M and the High Plains wine growers spent about, I think it was $48,000 to buy this machine that would help track that vine mortality rate on a bud. And they can put a sensor in there, and they can see where it actually starts getting so cold that it kills it.
Right.
But again, it was completely encased in ice before it was 0 degrees. And I think that that's going to be really good versus it being 0 degrees and there's nothing on there to protect it.
Mhm.
That's going to be the difference we're going to see.
Right on.
I think that the history of Texas wine injury has been single digits and the trunk splitting. But if you can have both, certainly the buds are at risk, and we worry about production, but losing the vine happens when the trunk splits. If there's still some sap in the trunk and you get into single digits, then if you don't have this coating of ice, then you could lose the whole vine. And I think that's what I guess that's the other thing that we're worrying about. So it'll be both production and actual loss of the vine.
Yeah, I'm lost. Yeah.
So do older vines deal with cold weather better than younger vines, or is it kind of a bell curve situation? Is the research shown in any direction on that? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I think it's mixed, a mixed bag. Yeah.
Okay, fair.
It really does. It depends. And again, where we have the Cabernet in the back there that's 22 years old, but the trunks are that big around, obviously the cold doesn't get through there as rapidly as it was in a third year vine that they're like as big around as a golf club or something. But again, when we saw the vine death from last year in the freeze of October of 19, it was across the board different by the age of the vine. And again, like there was this weird time where like 6th leaf to about 10th leaf were really good, but before that was bad, and then after that was bad. So you can draw that line and say that there's a correlation. But again, I think that the moisture that we've had, it's bad for the power lines, it's bad for our houses, it's bad for everything that we're doing. But for the grape world, I think that inch layer of ice is really good for that vine to insulate it and keep its heat inside of it.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. Well, if there are no other comments about the Merlot, shall we move on to the Cabernet?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So the 2017 Canada Cab. Oh my. So Doc, will you lead this off, and would you discuss how you developed the relationship with the Canadas when you first went into business together with getting the grapes?
Well, I developed a relationship by sending Bret to the annual grape growing conference in San Antonio. He sat next to Mrs. Canada and invited her out to the winery, and I think she couldn't come, but she said, "I'll sell you my grapes." And Bret tells that story better than I do.
Bret.
The conference cost a whopping like $99, I think, for the day. So that was a good investment. But again, the portion of this that I get back to is that the fact that the Beckers have established this relationship with their growers, and even though that day I went and sat next to Miss Canada at that lunch, she said, I was coming to see you on Monday. I think the conference was on Saturday. She goes, I'm coming to see you guys on Monday because we know that you guys are going to put the effort, like we put the effort to put our vineyard in. We've seen your barrel program. We've seen how much money you spend on the things that make our like wine taste good. And she goes, we're going to come. We were coming anyway. And I do think that that's like that was a big transition period from the time when I came back to the winery in 2006 to when we started this in 2007. The growers like literally were coming to the winery to be part of the Becker program. And we have 12 growers, and there's a reason why we have 12. We don't have 25. And this is a good example of why that works, because again, there's no expense spared when we buy barrels for the program. I mean, John, you don't have a budget for yeast. Sometimes it gets a little excessive, but you know.
Well, you know.
Yeah, this one time.
I'm a hobby bread baker on the side.
Yeah, right. But I think that this is kind of like goes back to the core about what we do and why we do it, is that the growers love to make the best product they can. They send it to the winery, and then it's our job to not basically screw it up. And we have a great team of folks that takes it from A to B, and you get a wine like this that's just like, man, this is, you know, again, we go back to what's the standard for Bordeaux varieties. If you went to a store and bought this wine, what would it cost? And I think that this is up there. Like, I mean, we sell this for $40. I don't think it's underpriced, you know? And Kaylyn, the price just went up to 50, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah, but the wine club guys still get a discount. So
Yes.
And I do think that like when 17 hit, we would limit the production on these to maybe 1,500 cases. And when we made this wine and it came out of the barrels, I think we all just said, how much of this is there?
Mhm.
And the general consensus was, it's all going into that wine. Like if we could have made 10,000 cases of this, we would have done it, you know?
Yeah, we made a fair amount, but yeah, we made a lot more than we normally do for the reserve program. But it's just now coming into its own. I mean,
I was just thinking that, you know, when we compare these, usually with, say, Jet's Cab, you know, Jet's Cab has sort of the darker notes very quickly. This, I'm getting almost kind of a dark coffee note. The fruit, sometimes I don't want to say lighter fruit notes, but those have really kind of become darker, more richer. It's so interesting what her grapes do over time.
Yeah, this is really it's starting to evolve. This is a wine that should, you know, you should hold it for 10 years and open it at 2027.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, this thing is gonna be a monster in 10 to 15 years. Yeah. Doc, what do you think, sir?
I think it's very Bordelaise, and I love this. I love the balance of the fruit and the tannins, and you've got all the classic eucalyptus, hummus, forest floor. All those things are here. This has always reminded me of Margaux when I taste it, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah, it is a wonderful wine. Somebody else really likes the wine too, apparently. Yeah. Joe, back to your point about some of the primary difference between Canada and Jet, and what we've noticed is Jet does develop darker notes earlier. It still maintains the fruit, and it's so funny because the distance is not that great, but yeah, between the two vineyards. But the soils are different. And I just Jet comes on strong early and lasts, and then Canada comes on beautifully fruit forward early and then develops into that dark note. later.
Yeah.
But do you notice how, like, when we bottled this, it had more of that bell pepper, the rock? I mean, and now when it's this old, that bell pepperiness starts to kind of tail off a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
And the fruit is still there, but you don't like. That's what's crazy about this wine to me is if you had the chance to taste this out of the barrel a year after we put it in there, it had these notes that was like any one of us could say that was Canada Cab.
Mhm.
And then a year later, before we bottled it, it still was Canada Cab.
Mhm.
And it's still like, if you try this, it still tastes like Canada Cab. But what's weird to me is that all that pyrazine is starting to kind of mellow out a little bit.
Right.
And that's what I think is so unique about that wine is that if you tried this a year into it, it had a lot of bell pepper notes, and they're still there in a good way. But now all of a sudden you start getting that dark, chalky, like that's what's so good about it, you know?
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree.
John, is there any Cab Franc in this, or is this
No, there is not any Cab Franc in this.
okay?
This is Cabernet, but to me, Cabernet has to have a pyrazine element to it. Really good Cab, to me, has always had a bit of pyrazine on its own. That's the one thing I love about Cabernet and being able to judge like the fruit and if this is going to be a good Cab or not. You'll notice that in the fruit in the vineyard. No, I have not sprouted a tail. Somebody just asked.
But there must, that pyrazine must come from the its parentage of Cab Franc. I mean that,
Yeah, of course.
not so much from the Sauvignon Blanc, I would imagine.
Right. No, the Sauvignon Blanc, though, really interesting. I mean, when you really, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when you taste those two wines separately, those two grapes separately, you could start to see like, oh, I can tell there is this characteristic here in this wine and this one here. One of the fun things that I did years ago, and it was at the behest of somebody I very much admired, winemaker. And it was the gentleman's name was Jed Steele. He's like, have you ever taken Cabernet and tasted it? Take Cab Franc and take Sauvignon Blanc and put them together in the glass. Just do it. It's like, wow, buddy,
Funny you mentioned that. Hey, Dad, there may be a bottle of Pavillon Blanc missing from your cellar. I forgot to mention.
I'm sure.
So what we're learning here, Joe, is no matter how old you are, you still got to watch out what you take from your dad's cellar.
But John, but you mentioned you're mixing Cab Franc and Sauvignon Blanc, and which ones and how did it taste?
I don't remember the exact vintages, Doc, but the experiment was to basically to learn what it was about the wines that the parents that offer the characteristics to the finished wines. It's not something I would advise blending and bottling, but for a taste, for a tasting exercise, it's very interesting.
Okay.
You do, especially a really nice grassy Sauvignon Blanc that's bone dry with that Cabernet Franc, and you just a little bit together, it wasn't very much, but you can really start to see those characteristics come out. Then you separate them out, then you start to realize what it is about Cabernet that you really like. Yeah, I love the dark earth. I love the chocolate or coffee notes in there. The pyrazine that I really think Cabernet has to have, that as Bret was mentioning earlier, that pyrazine, definitely Cab Franc demarcation. I mean, we have Cab Francs that we bottle, and they are bell pepper in your face, brilliant and dark chocolate. That bell pepper, when it starts to mellow, when those pyrazines start to mellow, they're not really going away. What they're doing is they're maturing and they're turning into other notes that we notice, like chocolate or coffee. Those are pyrazine notes. They're not the fresh green notes of the bell pepper or jalapeno or grass, but they mature. Same way when you see a Sauvignon Blanc does have pyrazine in it. And it also has the hydrogen sulfide edge that we refer to as the mousiness or cat pee in that Sauvignon Blanc. We also know the grassiness or that tropical fruit note, they mature into notes that are more readily notified in red wines than you would think of as white wine, even though it's a white wine. So by doing those blends together, it's a fascinating journey into sensory evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And that now officially makes me sound like the biggest geek for today.
You went to the cat pee side. I'm out.
Well, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it.
Like, But I do think it's interesting how this wine, like, I mean, we're still in the 2017 vintage of this, and
Right.
by the way, we have the 18 bottled, or we're going to bottle it soon, and it will not be out for at least a year. And we've got ahead of that program, which we made that decision when I told you that every single drop of this went into this wine from the 17 vintage, because it was like, I just remember sitting in that meeting and it was like, it is so good. There's no reason not to bottle all this that we can. And again, looking at what happened in 20, there was hardly any, and so enjoy it while you can. But John, I think that the program that we have on this is just like, I mean, what are you going to change? Like, is it
Right.
going to go from, you could put it in 20 different barrels and it's still going to taste like Canada Cab.
Mhm. Well, speaking of barrels, there are a few barrels we need to try on this. No. Somebody asked if there was any Merlot in this. Yes, there's a very, very small amount of Merlot in this Cabernet. Some years I put a little bit of the Malbec, and some years I put a little bit of Merlot. But in this particular vintage, there's just a touch of Merlot. Worked out very well. But I think we're better than 95, 96% on the Cabernet. So.
Kaylyn, tell us what you're tasting here, what you're thinking.
Well, I'm drinking the 2015 Canada Cab because
What is it with you?
whenever I really enjoy something, I tend to get into it, and then I'll save back a bottle or two of older vintages of things. And today I decided it was time to break into things that I was saving. But it's incredible because I believe right now the 17 Canada is on our tasting list at the winery. So I've just gone through that list and tried it, and it is beautiful and fantastic. And this is still got a lot of tannin to it. It's still rich and robust. You've still got beautiful fruit on it. And of course, as we've mentioned, the pyrazine content still stands out on this wine, even as a two-year older vintage than what y'all are trying. I always really enjoy the flavors that I get off of Canada Cabs because it is the chocolate, the coffee, the bright red fruits, and just that hint of pyrazine. And it is usually my go-to, hence why I still had a 2015 hiding back.
So Kaylyn, I remember we did did we do a tasting where we did the 14 and the 15 and maybe the 17? Did we do the?
We did 14,
vertical
15, and
with it?
16.
14, 15, and I remember thinking that the 14 and the 16 were good, but needed another 5 to 10 years. But the 15 was pretty spectacular. Is that?
That's part of why I opened it tonight, because once again, if I am stuck here at the house with a fire and some really good wine, I mean, I might as well. I've got dinner plans, putting together the oddball things that I've got in my pantry, and I figure that this will go very well with some sausage. And
Yummy.
I'm very excited to have these open to keep me company for the next 12, 24 hours.
Nice. Well, Kaylyn, that offers a very nice segue.
Oh no.
Pairing. So, Joe, after a heavy day of sledding and drinking wine, what do you like to have for dinner?
Okay, so I'm gonna be really boring. Okay, so actually for the Jolie, we made some sea scallops maybe a week or two ago. That was just a very mild kind of saffron, but it paired very nicely with it. Not overly spicy that can kind of really kill the wine. For the Merlot, Emily informed me about 15 minutes ago that, and by the way, if anybody from Chicago is watching, that there is a Lou Malnati's pizza that's coming out of the oven that I think the Merlot would go very well with. And then, for the Cab, the Cab is such a versatile wine. We actually did some rack of lamb. What was the spice we used for that? It was a nicer kind of Indian spice, but it paired very well with the Canada. I was shocked. It paired very well with the Canada Cab.
So is it more aromatic spice or heat spice?
Definitely more aromatic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Emily is shaking her head. Yeah.
Right on. That's perfect.
And Emily, I have to say, I pointed out earlier your monumental effort over the last 2 days of getting our boys clothed for going outside.
So
Emily's in some nice warm pajamas. Otherwise, I think she'd come over and hop on the camera.
You should be comfy,
Yeah.
absolutely. You could tell her that I have my camouflage slippers on. So,
There you go.
so Doc, what would you pair with one of these wines, sir?
Gosh, I think, with the reserve cab, the one double gold in San Francisco, by the way, I'd like to have the Coq au vin with this, and and have it slowly. Have a French fast meal of about 4 hours, and before it, have a little champagne first, and maybe a Chablis with the first course, and then with the main course have this, and that's it.
Okay, so we're driving down to Doc's house. So Bret,
All right, so I have a favorite cheese, and if you ever come to my house, like there's this Satori cheese with espresso on it that,
oh yeah,
like it goes good with everything. Like,
What about goat cheese?
I hate goat cheese. I have 50 head of goats out in the pasture, and I cannot stand goat cheese. But the Satori, or like with espresso, like if you haven't had this, it's like an epic thing. And I've had people that have come to my house and said, I wish you would have never showed me what this cheese tasted like, because we gained 10 pounds. And I'm telling you right now, like with all three of these wines, if we had that sitting right here, it just goes good. And it will, I promise you. So try it. Like espresso, cheese.
you know what? I actually have a wedge of that in the fridge.
Yeah.
So, I know exactly what I'm doing 35 seconds after we sign off.
Yeah.
So I want to bring up Beverly just said they had the Jolie with smoked crown roast of pork at Christmas. Very nice. Now I'm drinking Beverly. So that does sound lovely. Absolutely.
And did we get all of Kaylyn's food pairings?
I don't think so, but Kaylyn actually is one wicked chef. So yeah. So Kaylyn, what are you actually going to throw together tonight?
Okay, well, tonight is another issue. I want to say one of my most favorite recent things that I've done with the Jolie was I had breakfast for dinner. So lovely French toast with some bacon and fresh raspberries. The Jolie was perfect with that. So I was thinking about it. I was saving it.
Too,
Yeah, well, it's a great breakfast wine. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah.
No. And then, of course, with this Merlot, I would love to have a more creative dish, but I'm thinking I'm going to saute up some sausage. I have got some jasmine rice and some broccoli, and I'm going to figure out a way to make it all work together wonderfully. Lots of spices, probably lots of butter, and it'll all come together.
Nice. I made a bean stew yesterday that did very, very well with the Merlot. So
I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I'm headed to your house, John. Do you have leftovers?
absolutely. Everybody knows soup and stews are better the second day.
Mm-hmm. Everybody still there?
Oh yeah.
It's like crickets.
Okay. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. What do we have next week's wine selection?
Yes, we do. Next week's selection is going to be one of the wine club club wines. So it'll either be the Red Premier Club, the White Wines Club, or the Mixed Club. I'm not sure which of those three, but it will be one of those.
Okay.
So what's coming out in the February selections will be included for the next three virtual tastings.
Oh, perfect.
And I wish I had more information, but I'm here at home.
No worries. No worries. All right. Well, we will put it up online. Yes. And people can order.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I'll make sure to include it on this post and on an additional post afterwards.
That sounds great.
And hopefully, if you're a wine club member, we can get our stuff from the winery to your house next week. Like that's the other challenging part about tomorrow's Thursday.
Right.
And we have to see what's going to happen. If Kaylyn, they said they were going to get 5 inches of snow. And hopefully it goes south and hits Dr. Becker and Joe, and it stays away from the winery and
Yeah,
us.
boy.
I'll gladly sacrifice.
Because San Antonio is warmer than we are up here, and the tree limbs are popping in the everywhere that we're at. So stay
Boy.
tuned just for that update.
We'll
Sounds
do it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers to everybody.
Cheers.
All have a great
Cheers.
glass of wine. Stay safe, stay warm, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.